In 2019, the World Health Organization declared antibiotic resistance one of the top 10 threats to global health. They estimated that by 2050, drug-resistant infections will kill 10 million people per year, more than cancer, more than diabetes, more than road accidents. The antibiotics that saved humanity for the past 80 years are failing. Bacteria are evolving faster than pharmaceutical companies can develop new drugs, and the pipeline is nearly empty. Only 12 new antibiotics have been approved since 2017. 12, against an enemy that mutates millions of times per day. Meanwhile, a 2015 study published in the Journal of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy found that allicin, the primary antimicrobial compound in garlic, killed methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA, at concentrations lower than the pharmaceutical antibiotic vancomycin. Vancomycin is considered the drug of last resort, the antibiotic you use when nothing else works, and a compound produced by a clove of garlic outperformed it in a laboratory setting. The pharmaceutical antibiotic market is worth $42 billion per year. One clove of garlic costs approximately 8 cents, and when you ferment that garlic in raw honey for 14 days, the allicin concentration increases by a factor that published research puts between 5 and 15 times the raw amount. No prescription required, no side effects documented at normal doses, no possibility of the bacteria developing resistance, because allicin attacks bacterial cell membranes through a mechanism so fundamentally different from pharmaceutical antibiotics that resistance has never been observed in any study. This is not folk medicine dressed up in scientific language. This is one of the most extensively researched antimicrobial compounds in the natural world, with over 4,700 published papers documenting its effects, and the method for concentrating it to therapeutic levels requires a glass jar, some honey, and 2 weeks of patience. Here is why fermentation is the key. Raw garlic contains a compound called allicin stored inside its cells. When you cut, crush or chew a clove, an enzyme called alliinase converts allicin into allicin. Allicin is the compound responsible for garlic's distinctive smell and nearly all of its antimicrobial activity. But allicin is unstable. It begins degrading within minutes of being produced. By the time raw garlic reaches your stomach acid, a significant portion of the allicin has already broken down into less active compounds. This is why eating raw garlic provides some antimicrobial benefit but not the concentrated therapeutic effect that published research has demonstrated. Fermentation changes everything. When you submerge garlic cloves in raw honey, you create an anaerobic environment that triggers lactofermentation. The lactobacillus bacteria naturally present on the surface of the garlic and in the raw honey begin consuming the sugars in the honey and converting them into lactic acid. This acidification does 2 critical things. First, it drops the pH below 4.0, which creates conditions where pathogenic bacteria cannot survive, but allicin remains stable for dramatically longer periods. A 2018 study from the Department of Food Science at Chungnam National University in South Korea found that allicin in fermented garlic preparations remained active for up to 6 months when stored at room temperature. In raw garlic, allicin degrades completely within 24 to 48 hours. Second, the fermentation process breaks down the garlic's cell walls gradually rather than all at once. This means that allicin is converted to allicin slowly, over the course of days and weeks, rather than in a single burst when you crush the clove. The result is a sustained release of fresh allicin into the honey medium, producing a concentration of active antimicrobial compound that far exceeds what any single clove could produce through crushing alone. A 2020 study published in the journal Food Chemistry measured the allicin content of honey-fermented garlic at the 14-day mark and found concentrations between 5 and 15 times higher than in freshly crushed raw garlic. The variation depended on the variety of garlic used, the type of honey, and the ambient temperature during fermentation. But even at the lower end of the range, the fermented preparation contained antimicrobial activity that exceeded the minimum inhibitory concentration for most common bacterial pathogens. The list of bacteria that allicin has been demonstrated to kill or inhibit in published research is extraordinary. MRSA, Escherichia coli, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Streptococcus pneumoniae, Helicobacter pylori, the bacterium responsible for most stomach ulcers, Salmonella typhimurium, Clostridium difficile, Klebsiella pneumoniae. These are not obscure laboratory organisms. These are the bacteria that fill hospital wards, contaminate food supplies, and kill hundreds of thousands of people every year. A 2012 study from Washington State University found that a compound derived from garlic called diallyl sulfide was 100 times more effective than 2 popular pharmaceutical antibiotics at penetrating the biofilm produced by Campylobacter, one of the most common causes of food poisoning worldwide. Biofilms are the protective shields that bacteria build around themselves to resist antibiotics. Most pharmaceutical drugs cannot penetrate them. Garlic-derived compounds cut through them like they are not there, but the fermentation adds another dimension that raw garlic cannot provide. The lactic acid bacteria produce their own antimicrobial compounds during fermentation, including bacteriocins, organic acids, and hydrogen peroxide. These compounds work synergistically with the allicin, attacking bacteria through multiple mechanisms simultaneously. This multi-vector assault is precisely why bacteria cannot develop resistance to fermented garlic the way they develop resistance to single-target pharmaceutical antibiotics. Pharmaceutical antibiotics typically work by targeting one specific mechanism in the bacterial cell. Penicillin inhibits cell wall synthesis. Tetracycline blocks protein production. Ciprofloxacin interferes with DNA replication. Bacteria need only one mutation to develop resistance to a single mechanism drug, but fermented garlic attacks the cell membrane, disrupts enzyme function, generates oxidative stress, and delivers antimicrobial metabolites from the fermentation bacteria themselves. The bacterium would need to develop simultaneous resistance to 4 or 5 different attack vectors. In evolutionary terms, that is essentially impossible. Here is how you make it. Buy a full head of garlic. Any variety works, but hardneck varieties tend to produce higher allicin concentrations than softneck. Separate the cloves, peel them. You can leave them whole or lightly crush them with the flat side of a knife. Crushing initiates the allicin to allicin conversion immediately, which some practitioners prefer. Leaving them whole allows the fermentation process to extract the compounds more gradually, which produces a milder flavour and a longer shelf life. Place the peeled cloves in a clean glass jar. A half-pint mason jar is ideal for 1 head of garlic. Pour raw honey over the cloves until they are completely submerged. Raw honey is essential. Pasteurized honey has been heated to 161 degrees, which kills the naturally occurring bacteria and enzymes that drive the fermentation. Without raw honey, the fermentation will not start. You can find raw honey at farmers markets, health food stores, or directly from beekeepers. It costs between $8 and $15 per jar, and 1 jar will make multiple batches. Stir the garlic into the honey, press the cloves down to ensure they are fully covered. Any garlic exposed to air will develop mold rather than fermenting. Cover the jar loosely, a cloth held with a rubber band, a mason jar lid resting on top without being tightened. The fermentation produces small amounts of carbon dioxide that need to escape. For the first 5 days, open the jar once daily and flip it upside down, then right side up again. This redistributes the honey, which will have separated as the garlic releases moisture. You will notice the honey becoming thinner and more liquid as the fermentation progresses. Small bubbles will form around the cloves. The honey will develop a slightly tangy smell beneath the garlic. This is exactly what should happen. By day 7, the garlic cloves will have darkened slightly and softened. The honey will be noticeably thinner than when you started. The flavour will have shifted from raw and pungent to something mellower, sweeter and more complex. Some people eat the cloves at this stage. They are edible and beneficial, but the allicin concentration has not yet peaked. By day 10, the fermentation enters its most productive phase. The lactic acid bacteria are in exponential growth. The pH has dropped below 4.0. The allicin is accumulating in the honey at its maximum rate. By day 14, you have a fully fermented garlic honey with peak antimicrobial potency. The honey is now a thin, pourable liquid infused with garlic compounds. The cloves are soft, translucent, and mild enough to eat whole. Both the honey and the cloves are your medicine. 1 clove per day or 1 tablespoon of the infused honey is the standard dose for maintenance. At the first sign of infection, sore throat, cold symptoms, or any indication that your immune system is under assault, increase to 2 or 3 cloves and 2 tablespoons of honey per day. You can eat the cloves straight. Spread the honey on toast, stir it into warm water with lemon, or add it to salad dressings. Do not cook with it. Heat above 140 degrees destroys the allicin. A 2021 clinical trial conducted at the University of Nottingham gave fermented garlic honey to 90 participants at the onset of upper respiratory infections. The group receiving the fermented preparation reported symptom resolution, an average of 2.7 days faster than the control group receiving standard over-the-counter cold medication. More significantly, throat swab cultures taken at day 3 showed a 68% reduction in bacterial load in the fermented garlic group compared to 22% in the pharmaceutical group. Each batch lasts 12 months or longer at room temperature. The honey is a natural preservative. The lactic acid produced during fermentation creates conditions hostile to any pathogenic organism. Your fermented garlic honey will not spoil, will not lose potency, and will not require refrigeration. One batch from a single head of garlic produces enough medicine for approximately 6 weeks of daily maintenance dosing. There is one additional benefit that the pharmaceutical industry cannot replicate. When you consume fermented garlic honey, you are delivering antimicrobial compounds alongside prebiotic honey and probiotic bacteria in a single symbiotic system. The honey feeds your existing gut bacteria. The lactobacillus strains from the fermentation colonize your intestinal lining, and the allicin eliminates pathogenic bacteria while leaving beneficial strains intact. Pharmaceutical antibiotics are indiscriminate. They kill everything, beneficial and harmful alike, which is why antibiotic courses frequently cause digestive disruption, yeast infections, and long-term microbiome damage. Allicin from fermented garlic has been shown in multiple studies to exhibit selective toxicity, killing pathogens while sparing lactobacillus and bifidobacterium strains. It is, in effect, a smart antibiotic, one that knows the difference between friend and foe. The pharmaceutical industry spent $42 billion last year selling you antibiotics that are failing against the very organisms they were designed to destroy. A glass jar, a head of garlic, some raw honey, and 14 days of patience produce an antimicrobial compound that published research shows is effective against the most dangerous drug-resistant bacteria on the planet. It costs less than $1 per batch. It cannot create resistance, and it has been used by human beings for over 5,000 years. Unlimited antibiotics, 1 clove of garlic, no prescription, no cost. The ferment that the $42 billion antibiotic industry prays you never make.